Hi everyone, this is Erin O'Keefe here from Handshake. We're going to get started really shortly here. We just launched this webinar. We're just going to wait a minute or two just to make sure everyone can sign in. And we'll go over some ground rules first of how to ask questions during the webinar itself. And we'll get started really soon. So I'm just going to go on mute here and we'll come back shortly. Okay, for those of you who just started joining here, my name's Erin O'Keefe. I work with Handshake. Just wanted to let you know we're going to wait just one more minute and then we'll get things off here. So thank you so much for joining. Okay, we are going to go ahead and get things kicked off. One last time, my name is Erin. I'll go through a more official introduction soon here, but wanted to share a couple of logistics information about this webinar. We will not be calling on anyone during this webinar, just Tiffany and I will be talking. So feel free to relax. This is intended to be informative, but still interactive. We are recording this webinar as well, so just wanted to make sure to share that. Right after this webinar, or very soon after this webinar, we will be sending an email to all of the participants who registered with a blog site that will contain the recording of this webinar. So that will be coming to anyone who registered. And we still do want this to be interactive if you'd like it to be. So if you have questions as we go along here, please do not hesitate to use the Q&A action item in the Zoom menu item that you'll see on your screen. The chat, you're able to chat with panelists. You can say hi if you'd like to, but no pressure there. Only the panelists can see your chats. And then for Q&A as well, only panelists can see Q&A until we answer the questions. So there is a great turnout of participants on this webinar. We might get a lot of questions. We probably won't be able to go through all of them, but we'll do what we can to monitor the questions as they come in. We'll try to pause to call out some top of mind questions for the group. And we have a few team members on the back end who will try to answer as we go along. Okay. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off. I'm sharing my screen here. I'll go through some slides, but then we'll switch into demo mode. But for some kind of introductory slides, quickly, the agenda here, we'll do introductions, and then we'll talk through an overview of virtual fairs, some steps to keep in mind for virtual fairs, and I'll go into a demo to sign up for a fair and to show what it looks like on the day of. We'll wrap things up with some final reminders and things to keep in mind to be successful, to participate in virtual fairs. And last but not least, with whatever time we have left over, we'll try to choose questions to answer to the group. Okay. So before I get started here, let me just switch my screen. And I was remiss, I almost skipped over my introduction screen here. So let me present that. Okay, official introductions. I wanted to introduce myself officially. My name's Erin O'Keefe. I'm a relationship manager with the Handshake team. I actually used to be a recruiter before I worked at Handshake. I worked at Deloitte Consulting. I participated in many career fairs, met with many students. So I'll try to pepper in some tips that I learned from my recruiting days with Deloitte. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tiffany to introduce herself.
I'm Tiffany Taylor, and I lead our training and education efforts at Handshake. And I've been there for almost 2 years now, but I spent the better half of my career in higher education, surrounded by students all day, every day, kicking off orientations back in the pre-COVID days, when we all hung out together in large fields. And so being here today with you all is definitely, my cheeks are hurting because I'm so excited to be in front of students again. This is the lifeblood of why I know Erin and I do what we do. And so glad you're here and hopefully not Zoom fatigued yet. Erin and I have lots of yummy things to share with you.
And if you'd like a role model for positive energy for virtual interactions, you just saw it there. Great energy to bring in virtual fairs as well. Okay, so we already talked through the agenda. So first we'll talk through what a virtual fair actually is. Chances are most of you have not participated in one, and maybe not even an in-person fair. It is very different from in-person fairs as well, and there's a lot of benefits to that actually. So in Handshake, you'll be interacting with recruiters in either one-on-one or group sessions virtually. You can use your camera like I'm doing right now. You also have the choice to not use your camera, and you'll be speaking with a recruiter kind of like how I'm speaking with you right now. So just kind of wanted to outline high level what that will look like. And just, this goes into specifics here, but in Handshake, there's a mix of different options to interact. There's group sessions, which are 30-minute meetings with recruiters. And you can also choose to participate in one-on-one sessions where it's just you and one other employer. These are also, of course, very importantly, hosted by your school team, your career services team. We partner very closely with career services teams. They're a great resource for students. So if you have questions, always feel free to reach out to them. Some benefits to outline for virtual fairs to kind of get everyone enthused about this new format. So something to keep in mind, at least with Handshake virtual fairs, there are no lines. You claim your time slots in advance or also during the day of the fair, but either way, you don't have to wait in a line. You can plan ahead or just show up on the day of the fair and choose some time slots. And there's different ways you can really stand out to employers by using your Handshake profile and also interacting with them virtually that we'll talk through in a bit here. We've already hosted hundreds of virtual fairs on our platform, so we already have some great feedback. Again, just some exciting testimonials from students to share in terms of what they experienced for the virtual fair. But positive feedback from a student from St. John's University saying you're not standing in line in a loud gym. You're able to have intimate conversations with employers, and sounds like the student really enjoyed the virtual version. A student from Georgetown also had really positive feedback, finding it less nerve-wracking. So you can see how I am right now. I'm calling in from my bedroom. You might be calling in from different areas of wherever you're living. So very flexible in that way. Important to be comfortable interacting with employers. And we'll talk about those tips soon as well. Okay, so 5 steps to success before we actually demo what this looks like. We did want to impart some tips and pointers here as well. So step 1, before you participate in a virtual fair, make sure to update your profile in Handshake so it has the most up-to-date information that you want to showcase to employers. I'll be sure to show what that looks like. Signing up. So it's important to not only register for a virtual fair, but to also sign up for sessions. You can pick and choose different sessions and different employers with whom you'd like to meet. So again, I'll show that too.
And can I just say, Erin, students, I know you. I know I don't look too old, but let me be clear. Number two is the one I want you to hold on to. I'm sure all of us and your career service folks, parents, and everyone will have different advice, but I have never gotten a student to do something early in my entire career. If you forget everything else, please, please, please sign up for your sessions. Employers want you to sign up. Your career fair folks want you to sign up. Tiffany, some woman you don't know, wants you to sign up. So please, please, step two is my favorite one. But Erin will talk about this more later.
That was beautiful. Thank you, Tiffany, for the reminder. Great. So on to more steps for success. Step three, we shared here, it's really important to learn about the employers that you'll meet with. So just like for in-person interactions, definitely do your research. You can read about employers on their company profiles and be prepared to ask thoughtful questions in advance. And step four, finding a quiet place to sit and avoid distractions. Totally understandable too that you're not always in control of this, and we all have empathy for each other during this time. So to the best of your ability, find a quiet spot, make sure to do what you can to clean up the background. Employers also know that we're all in a period of transition right now, so totally understandable in terms of whatever spot you're calling in from, but good to do what you can to have a quiet place to sit for the virtual fair. And then step five, always making a great first impression, similar to in-person fairs. So really important to show up on time. Definitely sign into Handshake early before the fair, just to make sure you're already logged in and to make sure your internet is working. Making sure to dress appropriately. Luckily, you only have to worry about this section here usually, but still recognizing that it's a professional interaction and you want to present your best self. So Tiffany, those were the top 5 tips. I don't know if you have additional thoughts or reminders to add there.
No, the one I'm trying to win brownie cookie points with our career service partners. I think what Erin and I won't get in today is that as much as she and I love Handshake, we are a tool. Utilize the services that just made Erin laugh. Utilize the services that career services provides for you. I've been hiring people many, many years in my career, and I promise you, I can tell you every student who got their resume reviewed by their career center, who did mock interviews by their career center, who definitely got feedback on how they're, and that is something that Handshake can't do for you. So even though we have this hour to show you how to interact with the platform, your career services, they want you to fill up those appointments. They want you to come in for the drop-ins. They want you to do those mock interviews for them, because I promise you, they set you apart from the myriad of other candidates who are trying to vie for those same positions. So please utilize all the other services that your career services are providing for you.
Awesome. Thanks, Tiffany. Words of wisdom and other ideas to prep, so super important. Okay, with that, I'm going to go into my Handshake student demo account. If you have your Handshake account available to you right now, feel free to sign in and poke around and follow along with me if you'd like to. And just to make sure, Tiffany, can you see my screen okay with the demo account? Excellent.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to walk through a couple of steps here. First, I'll walk through making sure my profile is up to date. Then I'll go through what it looks like to register for a fair and sign up for sessions. And then finally, I'll show what it looks like to join a fair session on the day of the fair. So I'll go through all of those aspects. And again, we will leave time for questions at the end. I know they're coming in here. So I'm on my student homepage when I sign in. Unless you have a fair coming up this evening, you probably don't see this bar here. This is calling out that I did sign up for a fair today and prompting me to go to my schedule. So we do have that reminder for you when you sign into Handshake on the day of the fair. I'll talk through what that looks like later once we get to that point. But first, let's look at our profiles. So to get to my profile, I'm going to go to my kind of face icon in the upper right-hand corner here. And when I click that, there's a drop down that says my profile. So I'm going to click my profile. And this is my Handshake profile that I have prepared already. I filled this out. Usually profiles for students are pre-populated by your school. If your school is importing kind of basic information about your major, for example, your school year, your grad date, or your GPA. So some of this is probably already pre-populated for you, but please do go in and make sure you fill out your profile as best you can. It's up to you how you want to set the visibility level on this, which I'll show how to access as well. But making sure you fill out at least the basic information, making sure your GPA is up to date, your major, and your graduation year. If you want to edit any of these items, you can hover in your education box here and click this little pencil icon to edit anything here. It's totally up to you whether or not you want to hide your GPA from employers, so that can be determined here as well. And just for awareness, GPAs can never be seen by other students on Handshake, so this is just for employer visibility if you'd like to update that. It's important also to make sure you fill out any work and volunteer experience that you want to show off to employers as well. No worries if you have just mostly extracurricular activities right now or volunteer experiences, those are still really valuable and great to show to employers. So I definitely recommend filling this out, making sure this is up to date. I'm going to show one other thing in your settings in your profile before I switch to looking at fairs in Handshake. So if I go to my name again in the upper right hand corner, I can, in this drop down, I can click settings and privacy. And this is where I can update quite a few things here in Handshake, but I'm going to focus on two right now as it relates to virtual affairs. One area is privacy and one is work authorization. So for profile privacy in Handshake, there are three options and you can change the option you select here at any time. To participate in group sessions in virtual affairs and Handshake, meaning to participate in a session where other students might also join in a virtual fair, you will want to set your privacy level to community, meaning your profile is visible to employers and students and alumni on Handshake. So that's kind of the privacy level you'll want to be at to participate in group sessions. For one-on-one sessions, you'll want your profile to be at least visible to employers. Again, this is because you're interacting with employers in Handshake and wanting to ensure that employers can follow up with a message, for example, if they want to reach out to you. So for that, you'd want to set your privacy level to employers. And then finally, you can always opt to change your profile if you'd like to at any time back to private. So these are the three options here. In terms of the option that is kind of allows you to have the most engagement in Handshake, definitely recommend community for privacy level, but again, can always be changed. And I'll pause, I'll talk about this one other section here, and I'll pause again for any questions just to make sure we're addressing any questions on the profile. But final section in settings is work authorization. So again, totally up to you, up to the student on how you want to fill this out. Work authorization can have to do with preferences for jobs and for one-on-one sessions for virtual affairs. So for job postings and for one-on-one sessions with virtual affairs, employers can have preferences. It's up to you how you want to fill out your work authorization in terms of aligning with these preferences that employers might set. So here you can see there's different options. You can also prefer not to answer these questions. If you prefer not to answer these questions at all, that is totally fine. If you click prefer not to answer these questions, you will show up as a qualified candidate if employers put work off preferences. So I know that was a lot of information about all of these settings here, but very important to just check out your profile and these settings to make sure it is up to date before the fair. And since that was a lot of information, I'll pause. Tiffany, I don't know if there's any questions you want to call out or any other pointers you want to share in the profile or student settings.
I think no more tailored tips for today, just quite yet, but we do have quite a few questions. I think I'm definitely interested in, Erin, your perspective before we stowed you away from being a recruiter. But what are some questions that you would suggest asking in a one-on-one meeting?
Oh, wow, we're jumping in right away. Jumping ahead to the interaction, which is my favorite part. So there's two types of questions that I saw when I was a recruiter at Deloitte and meeting with students at Virtual Affairs. Some of them are just pretty basic and not it kind of didn't show that a lot of research happened. And then another type of question that was really thoughtful, it showed that the student was prepared and was really interested in my company. So I had students come up to me and they'd ask questions like, what does Deloitte do? That's not, it's not the end of the world question, but it's not the best question to ask because it shows that there was no research done in advance. You could, of course, look up the company profile on Handshake at any time to learn information about that. And then I'd have another type of question, which is, I was looking at Deloitte's website and I saw that the Human Capital Trends Report was recently published. And I'm really interested in the role of technology and human resources this year. I'm thinking this is the best fit role for me. Would love to hear your thoughts on that. Like, that's an impressive question. It shows that they really did their research. They care about the industry itself, and they're thinking about the type of role that they're interested in. So
Absolutely.
hopefully those are good examples.
Oh, no, no. And I love that, Erin. And I didn't mean to jump ahead. I think, again, I can't speak enough about your career centers. They will have even way more than Erin and I could add about asking those. And that's why you do mock interviews, because then you get to role play some of those questions. But to address something maybe that you just went over, Erin, is how do you recommend sharing resumes with recruiters? Ask them for their emails, send after, because you did touch on a great way to do that in Handshake.
Thank you so much for bringing up resumes, Tiffany. That's a key point. So I'm glad you asked that. So I'll show you where the resume section is in the student profile, and then we'll go to career fairs itself, since we're clearly raring to go to talk about the career fair itself. So if you're on your student profile right now, you can scroll down all this information, again, great to fill out, both for employer awareness as well as for Handshake providing best job recommendations for you. And my profile is very long, but there's a section at the bottom here called Documents, and you can manage your documents here. So when I click Manage Documents, you can see all of the resumes that I have uploaded into Handshake. Not all of them are visible, just one at a time is visible. And I can see which one is visible here, obviously, because I've clicked, I want this certain resume to be visible to employers. I recommend, if you're wanting employers to be able to access your resume during the fair and after the fair as well, definitely make sure you have a visible resume in this document section. Employers can only access it if you upload it on your profile and if you make it visible. So that is the best way to make sure employers can access your resume for the fair. Did that answer the question, Tiffany?
It did. It did. The other question, the other portion that I had added when I answered on the back end was that you all wouldn't know this, but your employers actually have access. They have asked Handshake for access to that after you attend, and they have the ability to check in on their RSVPs. And what they're pulling down from that is your resume. So what Erin mentioned is very key, uploading your resume and making it public so they can have access to it.
Excellent. Okay, should we go to virtual fairs now? Okay, I think we're ready. There's a slew of great questions coming in, and they're all about fairs, so excited to talk about that. I'm going to start on my homepage. So again, just starting from the Handshake homepage when I first sign in. If I'm a student and if I want to explore just any and all events on Handshake, I can either click this tab up here or this events tab here to just view all of the events available to me in Handshake. And I'm taken to my event page. This will look different for you than it does for me right now. Chances are it includes a mix of both events, like standalone events that are probably virtual right now, that your career center or employers are hosting. And it will also contain career fairs that you can check out, register, and sign up for sessions. You can check out these different filters. You might see a lot of events on here, so don't hesitate to use the keyword search here if you're looking for events by certain employers, for example. There's different filters here to see events that are coming up this week or this month, or you can just zero in on career fairs. And then if you're wanting to get really specific, there's more specific filters that you can search by, including if there's multiple career centers at your school, you can find events hosted by specific career centers. So feel free to check out those filters if you'd like, or if you know the name of the event that you want to search for it in here. The school teams that we work with almost always promote career fairs, like pretty much always. So chances are you've received an email, at least one email from your career center about an upcoming virtual fair that will take you to a similar registration site like we're going to show right now. So I'm going to show what it looks like to register for a fair and sign up for sessions. This is the moment of truth that we've been waiting for. I clicked on a fair that I'm interested in attending. And before I register, I can already see an overview of the fair. The career services team may have put a description of the fair in this section. I can also already see the list of employers who are planning to attend this fair. You might see a much longer list here that you can peruse through. And I'm definitely interested in attending, so I'm ready to click register. So I clicked that register button in the upper right-hand corner here that I'm circling right now. And Handshake has this prompt because like Tiffany mentioned, we really, really want you to sign up for one-on-one sessions. So once you click register, Handshake has this prompt to say, sign up for one-on-one sessions. You can do this now, or you can do this at any time leading up to the fair or the day of the fair itself. So it's not like you'll miss your opportunity if you don't do it right away. If you don't have if you haven't filled out your work authorization questions yet, you may receive a prompt prompting you to fill that out, so that might appear for you as well. But I already filled that out, so I have my chance to view employer sessions. So now I'm in my fair still. I've registered so I can see that here. And now it looks a bit different because I can peruse available sessions on this tab. I can view sessions that I've signed up for. And I can go back to the career fair details itself to, again, just see the basic information on the career fair, and also just see the employers who are attending. We talked about doing research earlier. That's still very much a part of this. So you can always select one of the employers who are attending that fair to check out their profile. And just learn more about what this employer is about here. You can see their website if they have a website posted there. You can also see any jobs they currently have posted as well. So if these are jobs of interest, check out those jobs, maybe apply before, or if the deadline isn't taking place before the fair, have that job in mind when you're meeting with the employer. So you can view that here. You can also choose to follow employers. What following employers does as a student is anytime you follow an employer, you will receive an email notification when that employer next posts a job or hosts a new event at your institution. So if you want to receive email notifications about employers you really like on their activity in Handshake, you want to click follow here. So I just wanted to call out those tips for the employer page itself before signing up for sessions. So let's go through a couple of scenarios where I'm signing up for sessions. I'll click available sessions here. If you're seeing companies listed here, and if it says like it's like a one sentence phrase, like there are no sessions available currently for this employer, it could very well mean that they just haven't created session availability yet. So don't despair, keep checking back on this page, including on the day of the fair, because employers, maybe they didn't set up their schedule yet, maybe they're planning on adding more representative availability. So if you're seeing employers here with no sessions at all, just keep in mind that you can check back to sign up later.
Erin, thank you for pointing that out. We actually got quite a few questions about that on the back end. And I mean, Erin and I now have one brain. You literally said verbatim what I had said to folks. And, you know, if I were to ask for a bit of empathy for a moment from our students, much like you, your employers are learning how to do their job a little differently, right? They're utilizing a new tool and doing something many of them have been doing for years before doing it completely virtually. And so your career service offices and us here at Handshake are working with employers daily to get them into the system as soon as possible to get their schedule set up, but we're all still learning. So again, the takeaway from what Erin said is continue to check right up until an hour just before your event. Folks are adding sessions. And then on the flip side, I just answered another question. There are some employers whose sessions are filling up, and I know career services are reaching out to those folks and saying, hey, do you have the ability to open up another session, because it looks like our students would love to continue to meet with you. So you have multiple reasons to still be checking back and adding sessions as your schedule allows.
Great. Thank you, Tiffany. Totally agree with everything you shared there. Okay, so now we'll demo what it looks like to sign up for sessions. When I scroll down here, I can see the different firms that have sessions ready. And different firms might do different things. So some firms like the O'Keefe Company might have multiple group sessions available in addition to one-on-one sessions that I can sign up for. And then another firm may only be offering one-on-one sessions, for example. So it might vary firm by firm. Let's say I'm very interested in participating in a one-on-one session with the O'Keefe Company. So I can click this button here. And once I click this button, I'm presented with the list of reps who are available for one-on-ones. There might be multiple reps. There might be one. There may not be reps here if you're seeing a screen that says there are no one-on-one sessions available. If you're seeing a screen here that says there's no one-on-one sessions available, it could be a couple of things. It could mean that the one-on-one sessions have filled up. It could also mean that the recruiter has set preferences on their one-on-one, like qualifications, and you might not be matching those qualifications. So a couple of things to do about that. First, make sure that your profile, again, is up to date and has the most up-to-date information. And second, we have seen employers, like we've been saying, go back to their schedule and add additional representatives. We've seen employers go back and edit their preferences, edit their qualifications to open it up to more students. So that's my biggest piece of advice there is if there are no one-on-one sessions available immediately, you can always go back to see if more open up later on. But I see some one-on-ones available here, and I'm going to check out here. These recruiters put titles in their name so I can see, okay, Clinton is part of the advisory team. Stacy, I'm not sure what team she's on, but I'm definitely interested in speaking with Clinton because I'm interested in advisory roles, let's say. So I'm going to select a time slot here. The 12:31 works for me, and I'm going to click confirm. Once I click confirm, you can see the right panel in my screen has updated with the sessions I've signed up for this fair. So I know that I have this time slot booked for a one-on-one. I can also sign up for a group session if I'd like to. So I'll check out, I also want to go to this group session for advisory opportunities. You would see a description of the group session here. And if you're interested in participating in that group session, you can click confirm. And again, that just adds to my list of sessions here throughout the day. I have a one-on-one at 12:30 and a group session at 2. You are not able to double book yourself in the same fair. So Handshake will prevent you from double booking yourself. So you don't have to worry about having overlapping meetings within the same fair. However, still really good to be cognizant of your class schedule, any other meetings you have throughout the day. Scheduling is a thoughtful piece of this as well. We understand that you might sign up for a session and due to certain circumstances, you may need to cancel. So I'll show what that looks like to cancel a session. To view the sessions that you've signed up for, again, you can go to your sessions on this tab here. And let's say I want to cancel my session for this group session, advisory opportunities. So I clicked advisory opportunities and I see this link here to cancel the reservation with that session. And Handshake does have this prompt here, just making sure you want to cancel. Again, we understand that things happen and sometimes you need to cancel or reschedule something. A good thing to keep in mind is if you can, cancel it sooner rather than later, because if you're taking up a slot, that means another student cannot take up that time slot or that group session slot. So we just ask that you of course, be very thoughtful about that. So you can either decide to cancel the session to confirm that or keep the session if you'd like to keep it. Okay. I'm going to pause for Tiffany, any questions or anything else you'd add for signing up for sessions for a fair?
Yes, we have quite a few. Do students have to be registered for one-on-one and group sessions before the fair starts? If so, how far in advance and do they need to be registered? And we've already touched on this, but it came up multiple times again, so repetition is worth it.
So you do not need to sign up for a session before the fair starts. You can even be signing up for sessions during the actual fair. So if you can, it's probably a good idea to claim that time spot. But if you're not ready, you can sign up for either a group session or a one-on-one on the day of the fair. Just keep in mind, those are limited time slots. So definitely sign up when you're ready.
And are students required to complete a profile to attend a career fair?
You do not need to complete your profile, meaning have it fully filled out with multiple work experience and extracurricular activities. It does not need to be fully complete. You do need to update your profile visibility level since you will be interacting with employers and or students to either community or to employer, but you do not need to have a fully complete profile.
Can I squeeze in two more that are about timing in the sessions?
Sure.
If I have a 10 a.m., love me the specific questions from our students. If I have a 10 a.m. one-on-one slot with an employer, can I go beyond 10 minutes if the employer is okay with it and they do not have a 10-10 appointment?
I love how that question was phrased because they included a scenario where it wouldn't be rude to keep going.
I love that.
Very
Absolutely.
Yes, Handshake won't kick out the employer or the student once you hit the end of your time. So there will be a little pop-up, like a 1-minute warning pop-up when your 10 minutes or your group session 30 minutes is about to end. But it will be up to either you, the student, to decide to leave the session, or the employer for a group session, they can end the session. So I love how that question was phrased because you would want to be mindful of both your schedule and the employer's schedule if they have other one-on-ones or group sessions. But if you're both on the same page and want to keep talking, you will be able to do that.
There was another question about, which you just answered, if you're in back-to-back group sessions, one-on-one sessions, is there a moment at the end of each session to connect to the next session? And for everyone, there is no 1 minute lull, we finally do have a prompt that, correct me if I'm wrong, Erin, does it say you have 1 minute? Is it a countdown that they
One
give
minute.
you 1 minute? So
Okay.
that's definitely your time to wrap up, and you want to be very swift in getting into your next one. But as Erin has pointed out on the screen that you have here, you can easily access your next session. But yes, I understand it does seem tight, but of course everyone is on the platform, so your employer is also coming from another session probably, so they know that you're coming from another session as well. All right, do you want to continue?
Yeah, were there any other, I can go next to what it looks like to launch videos on the day of the fair, unless there were other questions.
Are you going to go into a group session and maybe or talk a bit about what that looks like?
I'm not going into a group session, but I can definitely I'll talk through what a group session looks like.
That would be
And
great.
launching a group session looks essentially the same to launching a one-on-one video session. The difference with a group session is that group sessions are 30 minutes in length rather than 10 minutes in length. And as indicated by the name, group sessions mean that there might be multiple employer hosts, and it's definitely open to more than just one student. So one-on-one, it's one student, one employer. Group session, it can be at least one employer, maybe multiple employer representatives, and it can be multiple students as well in that group session. And it really depends on the interest in the group session. We've seen group sessions with just a couple of students in them, which can be a nice intimate conversation. We've also seen group sessions up to 50. So it varies group session by group session. In terms of what that experience looks like, it's pretty similar to what we're doing right now, actually. The employer can present, the employer can share their video. There is a chat section that I'll show here in a moment. You can raise your hand. So all of those things, but that's the general overview of what a group session is like. I'm going to go to my day of the fair. So I'm going to click in this green bar here to go to my schedule for my day of fair that I set up in advance. So this is what it will look like on the day of your fair. So you're going into Handshake. The fair is happening in Handshake. You're on the same career fair site. The main difference is 5 minutes before each session, you will see a button like this one that says join video. So this will appear for each time slot 5 minutes before the time slot starts. So I'm on Pacific time. So for my 2:40 to 2:50 one-on-one session that I signed up for in advance, I'm still able to join. That's a good point too. You are able to join your one-on-ones late. So please don't fret if you're having like last minute technical difficulties, you're still able to join within that time frame. And if you miss it, that's okay too. Get in touch with your career services team. Or if you already have the employer contact information, follow up with them. But yes, on the day of the fair, 5 minutes before the session starts, for each time slot, you'll see this join video button appear. When I am ready to launch my video to participate in a specific session, either a group or a one-on-one session, I can click this button that says join video. And it will take me to my, now you can see two of my faces right now. So it will take you to like a test screen. I'm not in the video yet with the employer. So you do have a chance to see what your room looks like. I'm going to turn off my video so that you don't see two of my faces. You can also, I'm clicking these three dots here. You can check out your audio and video settings. So I can make sure, for example, that my audio is coming from the right microphone, and I can test sound to make sure my sound is working. A couple of tips here, actually pretty important tips. So one, try to use Chrome or Firefox, if at all possible, on your laptop, if you're using a laptop. So we've definitely seen that video and sound work best for Chrome and Firefox. Two, sign in to do launch your session 5 minutes early so that you can do this quick check to make sure everything looks good. So I guess that's it. That's just two that I have right now. I did not have as long of a list as I thought. So you can check out all these settings here. If anything, it just isn't working right, if you've tried playing with your settings for audio and sound, you can click these 3 buttons and report a problem. That will immediately send information to our support team so that they can investigate and check out what's happening and loop back there. When you're ready to launch the session, this is the same thing for a one-on-one and a group session. You're just going to go ahead and click this button that says join now to launch that session. I'm in a one-on-one session. It tells me here my host hasn't arrived yet, but once they arrive, we'll be able to see each other if they're sharing their camera. And there will be, on the right side of the screen here, there'll be a chat bubble icon, very similar to Zoom, what you're seeing right now, where you can chat with the employer. The chat exists in both group and one-on-one sessions. So that's really handy to know. If for whatever reason the sound just isn't working, go ahead and chat with the employer. And I would defer to the employer in terms of how best to get in touch, if it's through a different medium or if it's through a phone call. But keep in mind, you will be able to chat with an employer for one-on-ones and group sessions if need be. When you're done with the session, there's this red button that says leave session, and it will make sure if you want to leave the session. And then not everyone will see this every time, but we do periodically share a pop-up screen to rate your video performance. Please definitely fill this out. We really want to keep a pulse on video performance. This is not about the recruiter. I've seen feedback here saying, this recruiter was so nice and great. It's not about the recruiter. This is for Handshake to know that our video is doing well. So just something to keep in mind. Great, and that's what it looks like to wrap up the session. And you can see now that I've hit, it's 2:47 my time. So my join video for my next session is ready for my 2:50 session. So like I said, 5 minutes before each session, you'll see this join video. So you can log in early if you'd like to. Phew. Okay. Tiffany, so we have a couple of final tips, but we can pause here in case there are more questions if it's helpful.
Yes, I think getting to some questions would be great. Would you recommend just meeting one of the recruiters or multiple recruiters with the same company?
Great question. It depends on the company. And if you saw in the example that I had, that one recruiter was clearly indicating that they're there for advisory roles. So like a big company like Deloitte, when I went to career fairs, I would bring volunteers from human capital, technology, and strategy and operations. And we definitely wanted students to meet with different reps from different service lines if they were interested in multiple types of opportunities. So if it is for a larger company and if you're sincerely interested in learning from different perspectives, definitely go ahead and do that. But also keep in mind, you have limited time and limited time slots in the fair. So kind of along those same lines, I would recommend don't just only go to the branded names that you recognize in the fair. Also, definitely check out other employers, especially employers you haven't heard of. This is a great learning opportunity. This is not an interview. This is not a promise that you'll do anything. So I would say great if you want to sign up for multiple one-on-ones with an employer, but then also I recommend exploring multiple employers as well.
I'd also suggest, I know I saw some questions about, how do you decide, do I go to a group session or a one-on-one session? And I think it's, dealer's choice. And I love the group sessions, especially, I don't know, Erin, what you've been seeing companies are doing with it. I saw a company do a virtual tour in the hopes of COVID ends soon.
Yeah.
Another company wanted students to meet their co-founders, not really someone who folks would get to see at an in-person fair. And so companies are doing some really creative things with those. Get to know us. Some companies are using it to do an umbrella, like find out about our culture, Q&A. Some
Yeah,
companies are doing open Q&A. When do you get to do open Q&A, right? So dive into the group sessions. I think it's a new way of doing things that maybe we couldn't do before in our large school gym. So look for some of those. And I don't think you lose anything by attending those, and a one-on-one for sure.
I agree with everything you said.
Would you recommend first years to attend their school's virtual career fair?
Yes, 100%. Yes. Unless for whatever reason, if it's a career fair, tailored towards grad students or a certain student population, obviously I'd recommend being respectful of that. But 100% yes. When I met with first years or freshmen or sophomores as a recruiter, even if I didn't have roles available for them that year, I was taking notes for sure. I was taking their resume, and I was going to keep in touch with that student. So it can be very helpful for employers and their recruiting pipeline, and also great practice for you. So 100% yes. Tiffany, I don't know if you.
No, yes, you got it perfectly. In group sessions, can the employer see all the participants?
In group sessions, the employer can click a participant list button and see the names of the participants. So again, kind of similar to Zoom, you can see a list of names of the participants. Employers before and after the fair have access to an RSVP tab where they can see who signed up for or attended their time slots, so they can access the full list of group session participants before and after the fair. In terms of seeing the video of group session participants, it depends on how big the group session is. So if there's fewer than 15 people participating in a group session, folks, it's up to each participant if you want to show your video, and you will see the video of whoever's talking. So if it's a smaller group session, employers will be able to see you in your video. If it's a large group session, just to cut down on kind of the noise of many people participating in a group session, videos are not shown. And in order to participate, you'll want to raise your hand so that the employer can call on you.
And there are quite a few questions about how do I talk to an employer if everything is full?
That's a really good question. So a couple of thoughts I have there. I'd recommend going to the employer's company page and seeing if, and you can access the employer company page in a few different ways. You can do it from the career fair details tab here, and that's the list of all the employers. Their pages here. They may have a public contact email address there, so you could reach out to them there. Also, depending on how you work with your career services team, that they could be a great resource in terms of kind of best practices for getting in touch with employers.
Awesome. Do we want to talk about qualifications and me not necessarily seeing an employer if there are qualifications that I don't meet?
Yeah, I think we talked through the best tips there. So my two key tips there is make sure you go to your profile, where I just clicked that again in the upper right hand corner. Click my profile and make sure all of that information is up to date and not missing. If something's missing, you could appear as not qualified. So just make sure everything's filled out. And by the qualifications, I mean what could potentially be qualifications. I mean the grad date, your school year, meaning freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, master's, your major, your GPA, and work off as well. So make sure all of those are at the very least filled out. And then also continue to check back leading up to the fair on the day of the fair itself to see if the employer added more reps or changed their qualifications.
Erin,
One thing, oh, sorry.
go, go,
One
go.
thing I do want to add, which is important, Qualifications can be set. They're not always set by employers. We see many, many employers not setting qualifications, and employers cannot set qualifications for group sessions. So if they set up qualifications at all, it's only for one-on-ones, and it's totally optional.
So more reason for my shout out to get to those group sessions. You touched on this before, Erin, but maybe just say it again. A lot of our student community are concerned about joining late, like joining a session late. What does that mean? Have you heard anything from the schools you and I have worked with about what that's looking like?
For joining a session, let me see if I can find an example here.
While Erin is looking that up, I'm going to address, what about dress code? We got some questions about dress code. So I'm going to challenge something that Erin just said. She said earlier on, she said you just have to be concerned with what you can see in your Zoom room. Let me be clear. Anything can happen. I have 2 dogs. If they come bursting through this room and I have to get up to wrangle them and I'm rocking some PJs below here, that's not going to go well for us on this chat, right? Your career services folks would tell you dress the way you want to feel to portray on those calls. And so a part of it is dress as best as you can to represent how you want to be received during your career fair. So take that for what it means for you. And it might just be a casual conversation for you, then that's fine. But dress the way you want to be perceived. And I think that's the catch-all that I can share with that.
That's a good way of putting it. Thanks, Tiffany. I was looking for a future session, but I have no future sessions left. But thoughts on joining a session late. So first, it's okay. We are all experiencing this new unprecedented format of interacting with each other. So know going into it that you already have a lot of grace and empathy on all sides. So it's okay if the tech isn't working and you join late. I would just, my recommendation is, of course, always be respectful, apologize, explain what happened, but no need to dwell on it either. And know that it is understandable during this time. That being said, do everything you can to prepare, but things happen. And also, okay, if you miss your session, it is not the end of the world. Again, that happens, and there's always ways to follow up.
I'm going to take this next one. Erin, my career fair is 4 hours long. Would you recommend trying to sign up for the earlier time slots so the employers are not as tired? I imagine it's a long day for them. You know, folks, here's the deal. They have been going to career fairs for a long time. They have been in your auditorium and gym for almost 8 hours before. Is it better to go at the 8 a.m. versus the 3 p.m.? Here's what I'm going to say to you, and I bet we can get Erin to nod. If I get a student who comes in at 2:30 and I have 30 minutes left at that career fair and they get my energy up, they have me engaged, they're going to win me over. I might not remember, you know, what the rest of the day was like. I am not bashing the person who shows up at 8 a.m. I'm saying don't worry about the time. Your employers are scheduling themselves for the time that they're committed to receive you as long as they can. And our career fairs are only for a certain window of time, right? So it's okay. Fit it into your schedule and just make sure that you're showing up ready to knock it out of the park.
I'm officially nodding in agreement. And sorry, I realized I misunderstood the question about joining late. So Handshake will not stop you from joining late. So you can even see here, it is 2:58 my time. My time slot is 2:50 to 3. I can still join. So you can even join in the last 2 minutes. Obviously try not to. Handshake will not block you from joining late at any point for the group session or the one-on-one session.
Is there a limit to sign up for group or one-on-one sessions? No, you can fit anything you can into your schedule. So as long as there are hours of the career fair and that you don't have overlapping, you can fit as much as you can. Are the odds of receiving an interview invite better if you participate in a one-on-one session or a group session? Erin, you are clairvoyant at this point.
Oh, sorry, could you repeat the question?
Absolutely. Are the odds of receiving an interview invite better if you participate in a one-on-one session versus a group session?
Oh, that's interesting. I can't really give a specific answer on this. I mean, yes, one-on-one sessions, chances are you have more airtime, literally, with the person you're speaking with, but just showing interest at all is always a positive indicator. So not a deal maker or breaker, depending on the kind of session you're participating.
Absolutely. You can ask a really thoughtful question in a group session that still stands out to an employer, and you could be with someone for 10 minutes and I don't get a thoughtful question, right? And Erin highlighted two really good specific examples of one that might be a candidate that knocks it out of the park, shows research and thought, and one that maybe asks something a little bit more generic. But Erin, we're at time.
I know that flew by.
It
We were
did.
very enthusiastic the whole time. I'm going to share two more slides. We will be sending a follow-up email to everyone. So this recording and the resources will be available to all the students who registered. Just two more informative slides here that we'll be sharing out and following up with. But we have a ton of blogs and resources for students for top 10 tips that you need to know, making a good impression, elevator pitch, fair tips from employers. So we'll be sending out these resources to you. So just wanted to plug those here to check out. And then we'll leave you with this final checklist. I love checklists. They feel very gratifying. So we wanted to provide one for you here. Just keep in mind your game plan for these upcoming fairs. Make sure to register, to actually sign up for sessions at some point, update your profile, research employers, prepare a few talking points or a pitch, be curious and ask questions. And then finally, don't forget to view and apply to open jobs if you're applying at this point. Thank you, Tiffany, for co-hosting this with me. Thank you all so much for your participation. This was so fun for us. And best of luck on Handshake Virtual Fairs.
Reach out to your career centers.